I stand here in absolute awe of God's goodness on my life. I began my PhD journey 9 years ago. Seems like a long time. Kind of like to look at it as slow cooked to perfection. As far as the season goes, lots of prayers, lots of tears, lots of joy, and lots of laughter, thanks to the most fabulous cohort I ever could have asked for. JJ was mentioned earlier. I've never laughed more with that guy in my entire life, especially just walking in the footsteps of C.S. Lewis. Tremendous time. This growth that I've had the opportunity to gain, the momentum, the development. Truth be told, I came into this program a little unsure of myself. I was a journalist from the newspaper, magazine industry. My cohort, most of them were deans, professors seeking tenure. It was a bit intimidating. There were times in Blackboard when my mouth would just drop like at their answers, and I'm like, okay, you got this. You can do this. So I think one of the most intimidating moments when I opted to do philosophy and quantitative in one semester, where I had a real moment of reflection, like, what the heck have I just done? Powered through that. I found my place when I realized that my writing and my journalism background, being a natural researcher, was my strength. And so I opted to focus on the strength and power through instead of looking at what was around me. And when I did that, it was Dr. Ben Fraser who helped open my eyes to that. He played a very profound role in my development here. He not only introduced me to indirect communication that rocked my world forever, he poured such truth in me and found the places of gold that I know he drew out in many of you. When you couldn't see it, he saw it and would pull that out, and a lot of it was implemented into your work, and honestly will be implemented into your destiny, thanks to that man. He was the one that showed me some freelance writing assignments that I had been given was actually the gold that I needed for a dissertation product, that I didn't even see that this study could happen. And when we had this, it was an aha moment. He loves that phrase. What was that aha moment? And he gave me that. He helped birth this dissertation. And so I've lived on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for 19 years before I moved to Austin, and there's a pocket of culture there that is so rich in the city of Biloxi. It's built on, it's a back-breaking industry built on the backs of immigrants, mostly from Yugoslavia, which is now Croatia, the seafood industry, which was once the seafood capital of the world in the early 1900s. And so you have generation after generation of heritage and legacy and honor of values that have just been, it's had this snowball effect that has just been passed down. And so getting time to share my life with these people and see how they preserve honor and work ethic and fortitude and perseverance through stories shared at the kitchen table, through stories working in the processing factory. It touched my life and has impacted me greatly. The seafood capital of the world was the time when whistles would go off at 2 o'clock in the morning and signal to the community that schooners laden with shrimp or laden with oysters were ready to be peeled or shucked. And it was a time before child labor laws when whole families would go in the factory at 2 o'clock in the morning. You would have 5 and 6 year olds peeling shrimp or shucking oysters next to their parents. So the generational bond that would develop was just very incredible. So the rich story that would be developed and the narratives that would follow down it impacted generations. And so in 2013 and 2014, I was given the opportunity to study this seafood culture as a writer. I was hired by an advertising agency, and they wanted to champion the buy local, eat local concept of support American industry, support the harvesting of wild-caught shrimp in the Gulf of Mexico, don't buy imports. And then I traveled from the Texas coastline to the North Carolina coastline, interviewing owners of shrimp processing plants to tell their stories of heritage. And I noticed a theme that these big, strong, burly men, these factory owners, when they would start talking about great-granddaddy, they would cry. They would lose it. And they were strong, and then they would lose it because of the honor that was so richly embedded within them. So this pattern drew me to this pocket of where I was from, which was once the seafood capital of the world. And so I tackled it, and it was amazing what manifested from that, and I'm just very honored how that came about into such a rich study. The funny thing is I grew up in New Orleans, which basically seafood is a main food group down there, and truth be told, I hate the stuff. My parents tried to feed me crawfish when I was a baby, didn't get the best reaction from me. Everyone in my family loves seafood. The very last thing I ever thought I'd write a dissertation on would be seafood. Very last thing, but it turned out great, and so now I stand here with this study under my belt called Shrimp Nickel Tales, of how stories about food, faith, and family are used to pass down generational values in the Mississippi Gulf Coast seafood culture. Technically, that equals I'm basically a walking shrimpopedia, and I can tell you anything you ever wanted to know about shrimp, just please don't make me eat the stuff. So I have to give thanks to these gentlemen sitting here. Dr. Keeler, I had a couple of rough patches in my journey, and you would just pick up the phone and call and check in, say, how are you? Can I pray for you? And those moments were very profound for me. So thank you for sowing prayers in a time right when I needed it. Dr. Brown, my dissertation chair, your compass of heaven-gifted wisdom and brilliant scholarly knowledge guided me through this program and my dissertation study. And to express my thanks in the best way that I know how, I have a gallon of seafood gumbo coming to you and Nancy from the most famous seafood restaurant in Biloxi, where presidents have dined on this recipe for decades. Dr. Perry and Dr. Elgren, who also served on my committee, thank you for your sacrifice and pouring into this study. Your valuable insight helped bring it to joyful completion. And maybe Dr. Brown will share the gumbo goodness with you. And just as a disclaimer, because my mama is in the audience and she's like this gourmet chef and her seafood gumbo is famous at Christmas, it's probably not as good as hers, but what I hear you're getting is really good. So to my family in this room and my beloved grandparents in heaven, who were with me when I started this program, and I know are smiling on me now. To my uncle, Dr. Kurt Longacre, thank you for your encouragement and for helping to always make sure that I saw the end goal of how rewarding this very moment would be right now. Thank you for being here. To my parents, you are my greatest gift, and it's a joy and an honor to be your daughter. Mom, you cultivated a love for words and writing when I was a wee little lass, and I would come to you all the time asking you how to spell a word, and every time you pointed me back to the dictionary and would make me look it up on my own. And it cultivated this richness for words and phonetics, and I can write now because of it, so thank you. You saw something in me before I could. My dad. You have always believed in me. You were the one who pushed me to go as high as I could go academically because you saw something in me before I could. You two are gold. And thank you for training me up in the way that I should go. And thank you for your profound example of faith, hope, and love. Thank you to Regent. Thank you to the School of Communication and Arts and this doctorate program. I am leaving equipped and strong with scholastic tools and rich communication knowledge to go out there and accomplish the God-given assignments on my life. And as a nod of honor to this equipping and the catalytic effect of launching all of us into our best days, I want to borrow a quote from C.S. Lewis. There are far, far better things ahead than any